Hi and welcome to this course. In this course, you are going to learn how to create a complete hospital reservation system using Laravel. Laravel is one of the best web frameworks out there, and there are so many reasons why you should learn Laravel. First of all, the demand for Laravel is increasing every single day because startups and companies need Laravel developers. They started to use Laravel and they started to rely on Laravel and they need lots of Laravel developers. So by learning Laravel, you will have the opportunity to join one of the startups or big companies out there. The second reason why you should learn Laravel is because by learning Laravel, you'll be able to start creating your own web-based applications and websites and web applications. And in this course, you will be taught how to create a complete hospital reservation system. I'm going to take you on a journey to learn how to create a complete hospital reservation system where you will create the reservation system from scratch. You will learn a lot of things in this course, not just Laravel, but also web design and also database design and how tables interact with one another and how to insert data into the database, how to get appointments, how to book appointments, and how to display the appointments like this. For each single department, you will have appointments, and users will be able to book appointments, and they will also be able to cancel appointments by displaying all of the appointments that they have booked before. So many things will be taught. And by the end of this course, you will have the skill to start building and creating advanced Laravel applications, which will allow you to join one of the big companies or startups, and you will be confident while working on Laravel, and you will be able to create so many projects. And this project is very important because, as I told you, so many things will be taught in this course, and you will also be taught web design. You will also be taught how to incorporate Bootstrap to create a user interface like this, and how to get data from the database, how to update data, how to cancel appointments, and you will also have so much fun in this course. So by the end of this course, you will have robust skills in Laravel, and you will be able to start working with Laravel confidently. So what tools do you need for this course? Well, for this course, first of all, you need a reliable IDE or text editor. And my recommendation is that you install Visual Studio Code, where you can install it from code.visualstudio.com. You can head on over to that link, code.visualstudio.com, and then install it. For Mac, it's going to say here, download for Mac, and you can just click on this and install it as if you are installing any Mac program on your Mac. If you are using Windows, you can select it from here, and it's gonna say here, download for Windows by default. Or you can click here if it doesn't say that, and you can select your Windows here. You can select Windows and download the version from here. And you can also install, and you should also install it as if you are installing a program on your Windows. So this is the first thing. And if you already have a reliable text editor or IDE that you feel comfortable coding with, then you don't need to install Visual Studio Code. But if you don't, I'd recommend using Visual Studio Code. So this is the first thing that you need. The second thing that you need is that you need to install Xampp. Xampp is gonna allow you to install PHP in order to use PHP for this course. And you can install it from ApacheFriends.org. You can head on over to ApacheFriends.org. And I'll be showing you how to completely install Xampp on Mac and also on Windows in the next tutorials. The third thing that you need is that you need to install Composer. And Composer is just a dependency manager for PHP packages and libraries. And to install it, you need to head on over to getcomposer.org, and I will be showing you how also to install Composer for Windows and for Mac in the next tutorials. So in the next few tutorials, I will be showing you how to install Xampp and also how to install Composer in order to be able to start working with me on the project. So once Xampp is installed, you will find it among your applications. So if I click on this manager, it will open it for me, and it might ask you for your PC or Mac password. And then I'll go to Manage Servers, and first of all, you need to run the Apache web server. Click on Start, and wait until here it says Running. And once here it says Running, you can start your MySQL database. Click on Check It, or click on it, and then click on Start. Once here it says running, you will be able to work with the Apache web server and your MySQL database. And by the way, if it forcefully goes back to stopped, either the Apache web server or the MySQL database, then you might need to restart your PC or your Mac. Once these two are running, go to Welcome, and then head on over to go to Application and click on it, and it will open the localhost. And and here in the localhost, you can check information about your PHP installation and your database as well. So if I go to phpMyAdmin, it will open phpMyAdmin, where I can manage my databases and tables and do operations on them. And by the way, whenever you are working, just keep the Apache web server open and running, and also the MySQL database running all the time, because otherwise you won't be able to work with the database and insert data and get data and all of that good stuff. In this tutorial, I'm going to show you how you can download and install Composer on your Mac. First of all, head on over to getcomposer.org and click on Download. And you need to copy and paste these commands in your terminal. So first of all, I'm going to copy the first command, and I'm going to open my terminal. And my terminal now, the current directory is my desktop. So I'm going to just paste the first command and hit enter. And then let's copy the second command and paste it and hit enter. And here it says installer verified. Then the third thing is running the third command. So I'm going to just copy it and paste it in my terminal and hit enter. And as you can see, it's downloading. And here it says Composer successfully installed. And if I go to my desktop, you will find that a file called composer-setup.php has been executed and installed Composer. And finally, the last command, which is this one, let me just copy it. And in my terminal, if I paste it and hit enter, it's going to delete the installation file. So now Composer should be installed on our Mac. And you will also find another file called composer.phar installed on your desktop. So if I head on over to my terminal and type the following command, php composer.phar, as you can see, Composer is working. But the problem is that now Composer is not globally. We want to make Composer globally so that we can access it in any directory. And in order to make it a global, you need to do the following: get back to getting started and copy the following command, which is this command: move Composer .phar to this directory. So I'm going to copy it, and in my desktop directory, I'm going to paste it and hit enter. And here it's going to tell you permission denied. So you need to type sudo, and then paste the same command again, and then hit enter. Enter your password and hit enter. And as you can see, Composer file has been moved from my desktop to this directory to user local bin. Now, if I head on over to my terminal again and type Composer, just Composer, and hit enter, as you can see, it will run. And you can use Composer from any directory in your Mac. So let's now create our project. First of all, in order to create your project, you need to open your terminal if you are using a Mac. If you are a Windows user, you need to open what's called CMD, which is the command prompt in Windows. And then you need to follow along. First of all, you need to CD to your desktop. So if you aren't pointing to your desktop, all you need to do is that you need to type CD and then desktop, because this is gonna change the directory to your desktop and create the project on the desktop, because it's easier for me. It's easier to access the project if it's created on my desktop, and I'm assuming that it's going to be easier for you as well. So once you have decided on where you want to create your project, let's create the project. So to create the project, we use Composer. So the command is to create a Laravel project is Composer, and then create hyphen project, and then hyphen prefer, and then hyphen dest, and then Laravel / Laravel, and then the name of the project. I'm going to name my project Laravel _ tests, and then the version of Laravel that you want to use. By default, it's going to install the latest version that is compatible with your PHP. But for me, I'm gonna just type 8. I'm gonna specify the version to be 8. If you don't do that, it's gonna install the latest version that is compatible with PHP. That's installed on your operating system. So I'm gonna say here 8 in order to make sure that it's gonna install Laravel 8, and then hit enter. And this is gonna start installing all packages required to create a Laravel project. So once it's installed successfully, it's going to say here application key set successfully, and you should find the project created on your desktop. So let me head on over to my desktop to show you that. So as you can see, if I head on over to my desktop, I'll find that a new folder called Laravel _ tests has been created. And in order to open the project on in Visual Studio Code, all you need to do is that you need to drag and drop that project on Visual Studio Code, and it will be opened. So as you can see, the project has been opened in Visual Studio Code. So let me now walk you through the files and folders that are there in a typical Laravel project. So we have the first folder that we have is the app, which contains probably the most important folders, because it contains the HTTP and it contains also the models. The models, by default, we have a model called user.php, and in the HTTP, you will find that we have a folder called controllers, which contains the controller.php, and whenever you create a new controller, it's going to be created inside that folder. And we have another 2 or 3 folders. We have the console, we have the exceptions, and we have the providers. These folders are usually aren't going, as a developer, you aren't going to work with them directly. These folders contain just configurations and things that are required for your project to work successfully. So you aren't going to work with them directly. The two most important folders here in this folder are the HTTP and the models. Then we have the Bootstrap. The Bootstrap, in short, is the folder that is required to initiate your project. So once somebody goes to your project, this Bootstrap is gonna start the process of showing the user your web application. We have also the configuration, the config folder, which contains configurations such as the database, the file systems, the mail, many things. We have the database, which is responsible for creating tables and migrating tables and manipulating tables. We have the public, which contains the CSS and the JavaScript, and also anything you want to upload. We have the resources, which contains the views. And the views is the most important folder in terms of the HTTP and the CSS code, because in the views you are going to work with HTML. Whenever you want to create an HTML file, it's going to be created in this views folder. And then we have the roots. The roots actually contains the links that are going to let the user go to specific pages, specifically in the web.php, which is the most important file in this folder. This file is going to let you create roots, which also known as links, where users will be able to go to, and they will be able to interact with your application. We have the storage, which is responsible for storing anything you want to upload. We have the tests. If you want to run unit tests, this file is going to be used. Finally, we have a bunch of files here, free files. The most important ones are the composer.json and also the .env. The composer.json contains information about your packages, versions that are used in this project, and also the .env contains information about the environment variables. All the environment variables, such as the application name, the database configurations, the database credentials, all of them are here in this .env file. So this is just a quick overview of a typical Laravel project. So let's now learn how to run our Laravel project. In order to run your Laravel project, first of all, you need to open up your terminal or CMD. If you are a Mac user, you need to open your terminal. If you are a Windows user, you need to open your CMD. But I wouldn't recommend doing that. What I would recommend is that I would recommend using the terminal that comes with Visual Studio Code. So in Visual Studio Code, if you click on View and then scroll, you'll find that we have here terminal. If you click on it, it's going to open a terminal that is built in Visual Studio Code. So there is no need to open an external terminal or CMD. You can just use the one that comes with Visual Studio Code because it's easier and you don't have to open many windows in your Mac or Windows. So to run your project, all you need to do is that you need to type the following command: PHP, and then artisan, and then serve, and then hit enter. And what this is going to do is that this is going to run or deploy your project on this server. So all you need to do is that you need to copy this local server and head over to your browser. And then I'm going to paste this URL and hit enter. And as you can see, what's going to happen is that it's going to run our project in Google Chrome, and it's going to run and it's going to deliver the default page that comes with Laravel. So now that we have our project running in our Google Chrome or your browser, let me explain what happens behind the scenes. So what happens once you run your project is that here what happened is that once you got to this URL, which is just // here, if you type / and hit enter, what happened is that this function gets called, and this function returns a view, and that view is called welcome, which is the default view that comes with Laravel. But where is this view? Where is this view? The question is, where is this view? Well, this view is inside the resources and then inside the views. Whenever we have a view, we create that view in the views folder. And as you can see, this view, if you open it, you'll find that it's just a simple HTML code, simple HTML with some CSS. So it's actually HTML, but here it says welcome.blade.php. Why do we have this blade and .php, not HTML? Well, because in Laravel uses a template engine called Blade, which adds extra features that aren't available in normal and simple HTML. And Blade is just an awesome template engine, and I'm going to be explaining what it does later. But for now, what you need to know is that the name of the view is goes here first, and then .blade.php. Always, whenever you create a new view, you need to add this extension .blade.php, because you are going to add the extra features that Laravel and Blade uses. And here in the web.php, you need, in order to return a view, all you need to do is that you need to pass the name of the view without .blade.php. Don't here pass the extension. If you pass the extension, it's not gonna work. Laravel is smart enough to find out what the view that you mean here and you want to return to the user. So basically, Laravel is gonna go to the resources and then the views, and it's gonna look for the name of the view that match the one that you passed here. So it's gonna take that name and then it's gonna try to match it with the views that you have in the views. And once it finds it, it's just gonna return it to the user. And that's exactly what happened in here once you got to the /, and then once you have hit enter, what happened is that it returned this page, which is the Laravel default view. So now it's time to work on the front end. We need to create our main page. And to create our main page, what I'm going to do is that I'm going to divide the page into 3 sections: the header, the content, and the footer. Why am I doing this? The reason is because the header and the footer will be the same for all pages. Therefore, we don't need to create the header and the footer every time we create a new page. We can create the header and the footer once, and then we can use these 2 files. We can create them in separate files, and then we can use these files in every page we create later. So how can we do all of this? How can we create all of this? Well, as I told you earlier, Blade will let us do this. Blade is super powerful and will let us do that. So first of all, in the views, what we need to do is that we need to create a new folder. And then that folder, I'm going to name that folder layouts. And then this folder will contain the files that I talked about. It's going to contain the header and the content, or the main and the footer. So here in the layouts, what I'm going to do is that I'm going to create a new file, and then I'm going to name it header.blade.php. And I'm going to create also a new file called footer.blade.php. And in the header, I'm going to here type, just for now, I'm going to add h1, and then I'm going to say header, just to show you how the structure is going to be. And the footer, I'm going to also add here h1, and then I'm going to say footer. And I'm going to also create a file here in the layouts called main.blade.php. And this main.blade.php, what's going to do is that it's going to import to the header and the footer. So here, to import the header and the footer, we say in Laravel, we say at, and then include, and then we include the file that we want. So the file that we want is the header, which is inside the layouts. So here I'm going to say layouts.header. And we don't type the extension. We don't say .blade.php. And we also need to include here, include, and then footer, layouts first, layouts, because we want to access the layouts folder, and then .footer, which is the file. And then in between the header and the footer, we want the content. So the content, in order to inject a content here, we use what's called at yield, and then the name of the yield, here the name of the thing that you want to inject. I'm going to name it content. So what yield is, basically this yield would let us inject content between the header and the footer. So whenever we use this main.blade.php later, we can inject whatever content we want. So let me now save and let me create our main page. So this is the structure, header, footer, and the main. So the main contains the header and the footer and the content. Now in the views, not in the layouts, in the views itself, I'm going to create a new file and I'm going to name it index.blade.php, which is going to be our first file. And this index.blade.php is going to extend the main.blade.php, because the main contains the header, it contains also the footer, and it contains the content that we can inject, the area where we can inject the content. So here in the index.blade.php, in order to import the main.blade.php, we don't say at include. Instead, we say extends, because we use extends because we want to inject here the content. So we extend the main.blade.php because we want to use it and inject things to it. So we extend it. So I'm going to say here extends and then layouts.main. We extend the main. And then in order to inject something here between the header and the footer, we use what's called section. So here I'm going to say at section, and then the name of the section is going to be content. Because remember, in the main.blade.php, we have named it content. We have named the yield content. So the section is going to be also content. And then here we need to say at end section. And then between this section and end section, we can inject our HTML code. So here I'm going to say h2, and then I'm going to say our content. Finally, we need to return or take the user to the index.blade.php. So in the web.php, instead of taking the user to the welcome, I'm going to take the user to the index, which is our main page. Now, if you save everything and head on over to the browser, guess what? Let me refresh and show you what's going to happen. So as you can see, what happened is that now we have the header, we have the content, and we have the footer. And our code now, our view now is very, very organized, where it's going to help us a lot later, and we don't have to repeat ourselves. And the process of debugging our code or adding or editing our view is going to be super simple. For the design, I'm going to be using Bootstrap in order to make our application look amazing. And let me show you how you can import and incorporate Bootstrap into your project. So first of all, you need to head on over to Bootstrap, which the website of Bootstrap is getbootstrap.com. And then click on Get Started. And then what I'm going to do is that in order to import Bootstrap, first of all, I'm going to copy the CSS. You need to copy the CSS. By the way, I'm going to be using the CDN, which doesn't require anything special. All you need to do is to copy and paste the link instead of downloading the complete library and trying to add it to your project, which is a little bit complicated. But this is much easier. The first step is to copy the CSS. Click here on copy, and then you need to open up your header.blade.php. And in the header, you need to paste that link. Of course, if you are gonna add the basic HTML design, you would have first to add the basic code of the HTML, which is this. As you can see this, and then you can add the link, the CDN CSS of Bootstrap. So you can paste it here first, paste it here at the top in the head, and then here you can paste the header here in the body, and then I'm gonna copy the body and HTML, the closing tags, and I'm gonna remove them. and then I'm going to add them in the footer because the footer must contain the closing tags. And the second step is to copy the JavaScript link CDN, which is this. You need to copy it, and then you need to paste it in the footer. You need to paste it in the footer just before the closing tag of the body. Here, you need to paste it. As you can see, you need to paste it here. Now, in order to test and check if Bootstrap has been added successfully or not, I'm going to be using a class called text center, text-center, which is just going to center the text. Let me now save everything. Let me click on Save All, and let me head on over to the browser to test. So in the browser, if you refresh, you should find that the header now is being displayed in the middle because I'm using a Bootstrap class called text center, which centers the text. So that means that Bootstrap is working and it has been added to our project successfully. So now what I'm going to do is that I'm going to add a navigation bar in our website. So I'm going to get a navigation bar from Bootstrap. So I'm going to head on over to Bootstrap, and then on the left side, you can click on components, and in the components, you will find many components. You can click on the nav bar here on the left side, and there are many navigation bars. You can pick the one that suits your design. There are many here navigation bars. I'm going to be using this one because I think I only need a couple of buttons. So I'm just going to get this one. Therefore, I'm going to copy it. You can click on copy, and in your application, you need to add this in the header because the navigation bar, which is going to be, of course, at the top, is going to be included in all pages. Therefore, we need it in the header because the header will be included in all pages that we will have. So here I'm going to paste this navbar instead of the header, and then I'm going to change what needs to be changed. So we have many buttons. Let me first save and refresh our website and show you what's going to happen. So as you can see, we have here Navbar, Home, Features, Pricing, and Disable. And we don't need all of these. And we also need to change the words that are being displayed. So for example, we don't need this disabled. I'm going to remove this. And I'm going to also remove pricing. And I'm going to leave 2 buttons. So now what I'm going to do is that I'm going to test our application. Let me here show you that here in the header, as you can see, we have the navigation bar. And now, since I have added this navigation bar, let's test. So I'm going to open up first the web, and then I'm going to change the route to the index. Because if I keep it like this, it's going to go to the welcome, and I don't want to go to the welcome, and instead I want to go to the index. I'm going to say index here, and then I'm going to click on File and then Save, and then I'm going to open up the terminal, and in the terminal I'm going to run my application. I'm going to say PHP artisan serve, and then I'm going to hit enter, and as you can see, it's going to start my server. So let me open up my browser. So as you can see, if I refresh now, what's going to happen is that it should take me to the page. So as you can see, it's going to take me to the page, and here it says navigation, navbar, and home, and features, and this is the navigation bar. And if you minimize the screen, as you can see, if you minimize the browser, as you can see, what's going to happen is that it's going to display the navigation bar like this, because this is a navigation bar created by Bootstrap, which is amazing, and you don't have to do anything special. It's going to take care of this. And if you are browsing, if your users or customers are going to use your application from a mobile phone, it's going to look amazing. Finally, you can change the design of the navigation. And instead of saying light, you can say here dark. If you say dark, and if you say here also dark, And if you save and refresh, guess what? If you save and refresh, this navigation bar is gonna be dark. As you can see, it's gonna be black. So if you want it to be black, you can simply change here navbar dark and bg dark. If you want it to be white, you can say navbar light and bg white or light, which is gonna make it light. So this is the navigation bar that's gonna be displayed here. And for the brand, you can change here the brand by changing just this word navbar. You can here type your brand name. So now what I'm going to do is that I'm going to work on the design of the main content. All the work of the main content is going to be in the index, because the index contains and in the content. So I'm going to remove this for now. I'm going to remove this our content, and instead I'm going to here, let me zoom in, and then here I'm going to create the card that will be displayed. So the first thing that I'm going to do in order to create that card, I'm going to say dev, which is going to hold everything. I'm going to say dev, and I'm going to give it a class, a Bootstrap class called container LG, container large. And then I'm going to say style, and the style is going to be margin 0 auto. And then inside that dev, what I'm going to do is that I'm going to create another dev. I'm going to say here dev. And then for this dev, I'm going to also give it a class. And that class is going to be raw empty margin top 5. This is going to create a raw, and this is going to add margin top of 5 to it. And then what I'm going to do is that I'm going to create a column. So what this raw does is that it's going to divide the page into rows. And for each single row, you can have columns. So it's going to create a grid, what's called a grid. It's going to be a grid where you can display data, which is going to look amazing. And everything is going to be clear later. But for now, you need just to understand the basic structure of the user interface. So here, what I'm going to do is that I'm going to create another div, and that div represents a column. So we have a raw, and we have here a column. Here I'm going to say class, and then that class is going to be column LG4. And I'm going to say column LMD4, and finally column SM12. Let me explain what these are. So column LG4, it means that it's going to add three columns per row, because in Bootstrap the page is typically divided into 12 columns. And if you say here 4, it means that each single card, each single div is going to have 4 columns out of 12, which means that 3 columns will be added here in each single row. So each single row is going to have 3 columns for large screen. For medium screens, it's going to also have 4. For small screens, only one single card is going to be displayed, because here for small screens, I'm assigning 12 columns out of 12, which means that only one column will be assigned will be displayed in a row if the screen is small. And I'm going to also say text center, because I want to center the text. And I'm going to also add margin bottom of 3 and margin right and left 5. So MX5 means margin right and left. So all these are Bootstrap classes. Now that I have this column, what I'm going to do is that I'm going to display the card inside that column. So I'm going to create another div, and then I'm going to give this div a class, and that class is going to be card. And I'm going to also give it some style, which is my style. It's not a Bootstrap. And this is going to assign or give it a width of 28 rem. And then inside that card, what I want to do is that I want to display the content. So the content, in order to be displayed, we need to use some Bootstrap classes as well. And these classes are going to be the card title and the card text, and also the Bootstrap image class. For now the image I'm gonna I'm not gonna do anything with the image. I'm just gonna keep it empty. And for the card body, I'm gonna say dev, and then I'm gonna give it a class, and that class is gonna be card body. And inside that card body, we can display the text. So the text is going to consist of two things. Is going to consist of a title, and a content. So for the title, we need to give it a class. So for the title, we need to say class card title, and for the content, we need to say class card text. This is for the text, and this is very, very important in order to display this and in order for it to be look amazing. So let me now save, and let me here say title, and let me say here content. Let me save, and let me head on over to the browser to test. So the browser now, if I refresh, you should find a card. As you can see, we have here a card, and this is only one single card. And if you copy it, if you copy now this one and paste it below and save and refresh, you should have two cards. As you can see, 1, 2. We have now two cards. We have two cards, which looks amazing. And of course, I'm not going to repeat the process like this. I'm going to be showing you a technique that's going to make everything, that's going to repeat the cards programmatically. As I told you, this is gonna create a row, and inside that row we have here a column, which is this column, and this column. Actually, this is the column. This is the column. And inside the column we have the card. At the column we have this card. We have this card. So as you can see here, we have a row, and then we have this. This is a row. Now inside that row, if I add here some space and here some space, now this represents this card. And if I copy this, let me copy this and paste it inside the row. If I paste it inside the row and save and refresh, we will have two cards per row. As you can see, 1, 2. And if I decrease, I need to decrease the width here. I'm going to say 18, and here I'm going to say 18. And I'm going to also remove the margin MX5. And I'm going to remove the margin MX5 here because I want to show you how it's going to look like if I refresh. As you can see, we have two cards per row. And if I add another one, if I copy this and paste it inside the row and refresh, we should have 3. 1, 2, 3. And if I add another one here and refresh, if I add another one and refresh, it's not going to be added in the same row because, as I told you, this row has a maximum of 12 columns, and we said here 4, which means that it will only be able to add 3 columns per row. And if you want to add 4 columns per row, you need to change this to 3. You need to say here 3, and here 3, and here 3. And you save now and refresh, you should find here 4 columns. As you can see, 1, 2, 3, 4 columns per row. And of course, you can add a margin and stuff like that, but I'm gonna just keep it. I'm gonna remove this, and I'm just gonna keep it 4. I'm gonna keep it 4 because I want 3 columns. I'm gonna say 4 because 4 I think is the best. 4 is gonna look amazing. As you can see, if I refresh, we have 3 columns because I said here 4. And also, I'm gonna remove from the footer. I'm gonna go to the footer, and in the footer, I'm gonna remove this footer. I'm gonna remove this. I'm gonna remove this footer because I no longer need this. And finally, I'm going to keep only one single card because I am going to be using a technique that's going to repeat these cards without the need of copying and pasting these cards. So I'm going to remove these two cards, and now I have only one. Now if I save and refresh, I will have only one card, and I'm going to be using a technique to repeat these cards. So now it's time to create a controller. So what is a controller? A controller is a class that's going to allow us to pass data from the module to the view and control the view and do awesome things. And also will keep our project very organized. So in order to create a controller, we need to open up the terminal. So I'm going to click on view and then terminal, and then I'm going to open up a new terminal, and then I'm going to type the following command. PHP artisan, and then make, and then colon controller, and then the name of the controller. So the name of the controller should be in camel case format, and it should start with a capital letter. So this is very, very important. You need to follow this convention for naming controllers. So I'm going to name it project controller. And as you can see, the first letter is capitalized, and the C also is capitalized. And then we need to hit enter in order to create this controller. So I'm going to hit enter in order to create this project controller. As you can see, it's going to say here, controller created successfully. But the question is where this controller has been created. This controller has been created in a file called HTTP. If you open up the app, HTTP, and then controllers, you should find a file called project controller. And if you click on it and open it, you'll find that it's just a class. And we could have created that class by ourselves, but by using the command, it's easier, and it's just going to import the mandatory classes that we need. And also it's going to eliminate the any syntax errors. So it's easier to use the command, the terminal, to create the controller than creating that by ourselves by typing it like this. So it's just a class here. As you can see, it's just a class called project controller, and it extends the controller class given by Laravel. And as I told you, it's a super powerful tool, and it's a basic block in Laravel. So now what we need to do is that we need to create our first function that belongs to this controller. So to do that, I'm going to create here a function. I'm going to say public function, and then you can name it whatever you want. Let me name this function get data. And here, this function, I'm going to pass the request to it. I'm going to say here request. And make sure that the request class has been imported at the top here. You need to say here use illuminate /http/request. So this function now has been created, and this function does nothing. So let's do something here. Let's let this function return something. Let's say return here. Let's say return, and then let's return. Remember, let's return the view. Let's return this view. So let me here say return, and then view, and then index. I'm going to return to the index. So now, instead of using here the function here, let's now connect this root to the controller function, to this function, so that this function is going to be used instead of using this function. Let's use the get data function to return the view. So to do that, we can here remove this completely, and then we can here at the top import the project controller. We can say here project controller, and then colon class, and then comma, and then the name of the function. So the name of the function is get data. So I'm going to say here get data, and then here close the bracket, and then semicolon. And at the top, we need to import the project controller. So at the top, we need to say at the top here, we need to say use a app, and then /http /controllers /project controller, and then semicolon. So I have imported the project controller, which is this, and here I said project controller class, and then I said get data. So what this does is that this URL is going to use the get data function of the project controller. So this URL, once you go to this URL is going to go to the project controller class, and then it's going to look for the get data, which is this function, and then it's going to return this index. Let me now save, and let me head on over to the browser. Let me save all, and let me head on over to the browser to show you that this is correct and it's going to work successfully. So let me head on over to the browser. So if you head on over to the browser and refresh, as you can see, what you are going to get is that you are going to get the view, which is the index, and it works successfully. And of course, make sure that your server is up and running. So if your server is not up and running, you need to run that server, as you can see, in order for this to work successfully. So now what we need to do is that we need a way to pass data from the controller to the view. And that can be done here by creating a variable and then pass it to the view immediately and without any problems. You can do that quickly here by creating a variable. For example, if you say here data, and then the data is going to be equal, let's say this is a string, I'm going to say this is my data. And then to pass this to the view, you can here say comma, and then array, and then key and value. So the key can be anything. Let's say the key is data, and the value is data. So now, in order to access this data from the index.bleed.php, you need to say here double curly braces and then $, and then the key. So the key is data. So the key here is data. Now, if I save and head on over to the browser and refresh, here you should find that here it says this is my data. And I want to make sure that you understood this by changing the key. So the key can be anything. The key can be, for example, key, just key. Now here it should be key. This should be now key. Now if I save and refresh, it's going to work successfully. So you need to differentiate between the key and the value. The key is on the left side and the value is on the right side. So the value is the variable itself. This is the value, which is the variable. The key is on the left side, and the key is the one that is used in order to access the value. And you need to add the $, before it. You need to say $, and then key. So this is how it works. And you need, of course, to use the double curly braces syntax in order for it to work. And you can, of course, pass whatever data you want, whatever type of data you want. You can pass numbers. You can say here 99. You can pass an array. You can pass whatever you want. As you can see, if I refresh, it's going to display here 99. So you can pass strings. You can pass objects. You can pass whatever you want. So now it's time to talk about the credentials for your database. If you open a file here in your project called .env, you'll find, as I told you earlier, you'll find that here we have the database connection, we have the database _host, we have the port, the database name, and also the username and password. But if you try to access your website now, it's not going to work because we have activated the registration system and we did not create the users table. So therefore, we need to work on creating the database, and also we need to create a database with a specific name. So to do that, you need to open up your Xampp, and then in your Xampp you need to click on Manage Servers, and then run your MySQL. Click on Start, and also and also your Apache web server. You need to start both of them. So make sure that both are running here. It's going to take some time to start my Apache web server and also my database. As you can see here, the Apache web server will start first and then my SQL database. Now, if you click on go to my application, or if you just head on over to the browser and type localhost. So here, let me type localhost. Localhost and then /dashboard and then click on PHP My Admin. This is going to open up your PHP My Admin where you can control your databases and also your tables. So as you can see now, I have here all of my databases. So what I'm going to do here is that I'm going to click on new, and then I'm going to create a database and I'm going to name it Laravel _ So here Laravel _ and then click on create, and this is going to create my database. And as you can see, this database again has Laravel _ voting, and we need to check out a few things such as the privileges. You need to click on the privileges, and then you will find that here in the privileges we have the username. The username is root, and the host is 127.0.0.1, and the type is global, and all privileges. So anyone can use this credentials to access my database, and we should use this. The username as again is root, and then the host name is 127.0.0.1, and type is global. And you can edit, of course, that, but I wouldn't recommend doing that at this point because we are in the development stage. So now we need to take these credentials and head on over back to the browser and type them here in the .env. So again here, the database host is 127.0.0.1. That's correct. The port is usually 3306. And finally, we have the username is root. That's correct. The password is nothing. The password by default is nothing. You can check that by heading on over to the main page, and then click on user accounts here in your PHP My Admin, and you will find that here all of these credentials can be used in your to access your databases. So for example, here we have this credential, which is root, and then the hostname is 127.0.0.1, and the password is no. Whenever it says here password is no, it means that there is no password. And the global privileges is all privileges, so we can access it, and the grant is yes. So we are using this line. We are using the username as root, and the host is 127.0.0.1, and the password is nothing. So make sure that you have this here in your database, and the username is root, and then the password is nothing. The database name, remember, the database name is Laravel _ project. This is very important. _project. You need to make sure that the database here, Laravel _ project, matches the database that you have just created, which is called Laravel project. You need to make sure that the database here, Laravel _ project, matches the database that you have just created, which is called Laravel project. And now I can access my database. So now it's time to activate the registration system. In Laravel, there is a registration and login system that comes with Laravel, and you can use it instead of wasting a lot of time creating your own registration system. All you need to do is that you need just to kind of turn that registration system on, and it will work with Laravel amazingly. Let me show you how you can do that. So to do that, we use a command here called, we actually need to type two commands. The first one is composer require, and then Laravel, and then /get stream. So it's composer require Laravel /get stream, and then hit enter. And this is going to take some time. So once this is done, we need to run another command. Let me open a new window here and run the other command, which is PHP artisan and then jetstream and then colon install and then live wire. And again, it's PHP artisan jetstream colon install and then live wire, and then hit enter. And this is gonna add the scaffolding, the registration and login scaffolding in our application, where we will be able to show the login page and the registration page to users. So as you can see here, it says live wire scaffolding installed successfully. So if you open up, first of all, if you open up web.php, you should find, this is a must, you should find a new root here that has a little bit strange structure. Here it says root and then middleware and then auth and then here get and then dashboard and then a function. And it has a name called dashboard. So this root gets added automatically once you turn on the registration system. And what this root basically does is that whenever the user goes to the dashboard, whenever the user is logged in and goes to the dashboard, it's going to allow him or her go to the dashboard, to the profile, in other words. But if the user is not logged in, it's not going to allow him to enter the profile. And this is important. You need to check that this root is available. The second thing that you need to check is that if you open up your views, you should find that there are a few more files have been created. So for example, you'll find that we have a new file called guest.blade.php, and we also have the app.blade.php. You can open them and check them out. They are just pages that would be displayed according to whether a user is logged in or not. We also have here a folder called profile, where it has many files that can be displayed to the user depending upon whether a user is logged in or not, or if the user wants to log in or register. We also have the dashboard.blade.php. Let's now head on over to the browser and check all of these. So in the browser, if I type / and then login and then hit enter, you will find that we have here an error. We need to run the PHP artisan migrate one more time. So in our project, we need to run this command. Let me open a new terminal window and then let me type this command, PHP artisan migrate, and then hit enter. And this is gonna create the sessions table, and the error should be gone. Let me refresh now, and we are gonna get another error, and that error is because we need to run two commands. We need to run the npm install and also the npm run dev. So I'm gonna copy this npm install, and then I'm gonna again open up a new terminal, and then I'm gonna paste it. So it's npm install and then hit enter. And by the way, this is gonna take some time, so you need to be patient. And once this is done, we need to run another command, which is this npm run dev, and then hit enter. Again, this is npm run dev, this command, and it's gonna also do the same. It's gonna take some time, so you need to also be patient. And as you can see now, it has been successfully here, successfully compiled successfully in that number of seconds. And now if you head on over to the browser and refresh, as you can see now, the error is gone. And if you go to the login, you will be able to see the login page where you will be able to log in. And since we don't have an account, we won't be able to log in. So we can go to a root called register, and then hit enter. And this is gonna take us to the registration form. As you can see, name, email, password, and register. So this is how you can access the login and the register routes and you will be able to create an account. So now what I'm going to do is that I'm going to create all of the tables that our project needs. So in order to create the tables, we need to open up the terminal. So I'm going to open up the terminal here. I'm going to click on View, and then I'm going to click on Terminal. And then once I open the terminal, all you need to do is that you need to type the following in order to start creating tables. So before I start creating tables, let me explain the tables that I'm going to create. The tables that I'm going to create are 3 tables. I'm going to create a table called Bookings, and another table called Appointments, and a third table called Departments. So what are these? These 3 tables represent each one represents something. So for example, the departments table is going to store the information about each clinic and the name, the title, and the description, and things like that. The bookings obviously is the table that's gonna store bookings that users are gonna make, and appointments is a table where it's gonna just managed by the hospital, and people there, the staff there will add appointments, and users will be able to select from these appointments. So I know that this might sound confusing right now, but once I finish, you will understand everything. So let's start creating these 3 tables. So to create the first table, I'm going to say PHP artisan, and then make migration, and then the name of the table. In order to create a table, we need to say create, and then underscore, and then the name of the table, and it must be in the plural form. So I'm going to start by creating the departments table. I'm going to say departments underscore table, and then I'm going to hit enter. This is going to create a table. As you can see, it's going to create a table called, it's not actually going to create the table, it's going to create a file that's going to allow me to specify the columns that I want in the table. But before I specify the columns, let's create the other 2 tables. So the second table is going to be, I'm going to just type PHP artisan one more time, and then make migration, and then create underscore, and then the name of the table. The second table is the appointments, and underscore, and then table. And again, pay attention to the name here. It's in the plural form. This is very, very important. Appointments. You need to add an S. You need to make it in the plural form, because otherwise, Laravel, you would need to take care of many things actually. But if you name your table in the plural form, Laravel is going to take care of a lot of things, and Laravel is very smart and is going to take care of a lot of things on behalf of you. So once you are done, just hit enter, and this is going to create the second table. And then we need to create a last table called bookings. So I'm going to create another table here. I'm going to say create, and then I'm going to say bookings underscore table, and then I'm going to hit enter. So now we have 3 tables. We have 3 files. The first one is create the departments table, and then create appointments table, and then create bookings table. But the question is, where are these files? These files have been created in a folder called database migrations, and then you will find many files. At the end, you should find that we have 3 files. We have here a file that has a very long name, and then at the end it says create departments table, and then another file which has a long name, and then create appointments table, and then a third file which also has a long name, and then create bookings table. So let's open the first one. If you open the first one, which is the departments table file.php, you'll find that it's just a class. It's just a PHP class that says here create departments table. And here, what you need to do is that you need to specify the columns that you want to have inside that departments table. So let's start working on that. So the departments, as I told you, the departments represent, this departments table represent the clinics, or let's say the issues that people have and will need to go to a specific clinic to be treated. So we have, for example, the eyes department, maybe the psychiatry clinic or department, maybe another one for um, teeth. I don't know. There are many things, many problems people have. So here the departments is going to represent these things. So the departments must have obviously an ID. Any table must have an ID, and then it must have a name. So I'm going to say here table, and then string, because the name is going to be a string, and then the name. The name here inside the function, which is the string. The string is the data type, and the name is the name of the column. And then I'm going to say table, and then the third column that I want is going to be the information. So I'm going to say string, and then in info. I'm going to say info. Information maybe, or description. Let's say description. It's better to say description so that people know which clinic they should register for in order to get treated. And also we want, let's say, an image, for example. You can say table, and then string for the image. So the image is going to be a URL, so it must be a string. So I'm going to say image. So we have here for this departments table, we have these columns. Again, these columns are the ID, the name, the description, and at the end, if you will find at the end here we have what's called the timestamps. What is this? This is just created by default by Laravel. Just leave it as is. This is very important. You need to leave it as is, otherwise you are going to get an error. So just leave this timestamps like this. And then all you need to do now is that you need to click on File and then Save All. And then let's work on the second file that we have. So the second file that we have is the appointments. So for the appointments, what do we need for the appointments? The appointments is going to store obviously the appointments, and it's going to store also the clinic and the appointments that this clinic has. So for example, a clinic might have, let's see here, let me here type first here. I'm going to say table, and then let's say the department name. So each appointment must belong to a department. Therefore, I'm going to say table, and then string, and then department name, because each department, for example, let's say the psychiatry is going to have appointments, right? And people should choose from one of these appointments. So we need to use the psychiatry, the name of the department, as well as the ID. So here I'm going to say the string, the department name, and also we want the department ID. So here I'm going to say table, and then integer, because the department ID is obviously an integer. So I'm going to say integer, and then I'm going to say department underscore ID. And don't worry about where we are going to get these from. We are going to get these from the departments table, and later you will see all of this. Don't worry about this for now. What I want you to worry about now, and what I want you to focus on now, is the columns that we are going to have, and the relationship between columns. So here we have the department. Make sure that you don't have any typos. Department name and department ID, and then we want the date. So I'm going to say table, and then the appointment date. I'm going to say date time. So this is going to be just appointment date. And we need also the status. So I'm going to say here table, and then I'm going to say boolean, and then I'm going to say taken or status. You can name it taken or status. So this taken is going to store whether this appointment is taken or not. So if it's taken, then nobody else can take it because somebody else has taken it. If it's not taken, then you can make an appointment. You can register your appointment and take that appointment. So this is very, very important. So here we have 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we should have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Here again, make sure that you have here the department ID and department name and the appointment date and the taken and the timestamp. So we are done here. I'm going to click here on file and then save all. I'm going to click on file and then save all. And then I'm gonna also you can, by the way, you can store the, if you wish, you can also store the more information about the department URL, even if you wish to do that. But let's keep it simple for now. And finally, the bookings. I'm gonna open the bookings. So for the bookings, I'm gonna open the bookings. So for the bookings, let me here open the bookings. So for the bookings, we need the name of the user. I'm gonna say here table. So now we need to work on the bookings. So I'm gonna open up the bookings here, and then I'm gonna type the following. First of all, the bookings table must have a username. So we need to know the name of the user who wants to get treated or get treatment. So I'm gonna say here username. And then we need also the ID of that user. The ID is always going to be unique. So I'm going to say table. It's very important to have something unique. So I'm going to say table and then integer. And then for this integer, it's going to store the user ID. And then we want also the appointment ID. So I'm going to say table and then integer, and then appointment ID. Appointment underscore ID. And then we also want the department name. I'm gonna say table, and then department, and then string, and then department name. And we need also the time of that appointment. I'm gonna say table, and then I'm gonna say date time, and then I'm gonna say appointment or booking time. Let's say appointment date. I think we have named it here, appointment date. So here, let's keep everything consistent. I'm gonna say date, appointment date, and we are good to go. So make sure that you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and also make sure that the timestamps is there. So now once we are done, all we need to do is that we need to click on file and then save all. But this is not going to create the table. This step was to specify the columns. Now this step is going to create the table. So to create the tables, to create these three tables, the appointments, the bookings, and the departments, we need to open up the terminal. I'm going to click on view and then terminal. And then in the terminal, you need to type the following. You need to type PHP artisan and then migrate. This is gonna migrate the tables from your project all the way down or all the way up to your database. So once you have typed this PHP artisan, so once you have typed this PHP artisan migrate, just hit enter, and this is gonna create the tables here. This is gonna create the tables. As you can see here, it's gonna take some time, and then it's gonna say here migrated this table, and then this table and this table. So these tables have been migrated. So let's go on. Let's head on over to the PHP My Admin and check whether they have been created or not. So in PHP My Admin, I'm going to click on my database Laravel project, and then if I click on it, it's going to refresh, and it should display all of the tables. So as you can see, all of the tables have been created here. We have the appointments, the bookings, and the departments, and other tables. These tables come with by default with Laravel, and they are important for our project to run successfully. Now, in order to use the data that has been inserted into the database, we need to create what's called models. So models are going to connect to the database and get data from the database. So in order to create models, we need to click on View and then Terminal, and then we need to create three models. We need to create actually three models. Each model is going to connect to a database, is going to connect to a table. So we have three tables. We have the departments, we have the bookings, and we have the appointments. So I'm going to create the first model. I'm going to say PHP, and then artisan, and then make, and then colon model, and then the name of the model. The name of the model should start with a capital letter. I'm going to say department, and unlike tables, it should be singular, not plural. So do not name it departments. It should be department, only department, singular, and then hit enter. This is going to create the first model. Let's create the second model. So the second model is going to be appointment. Again, the first letter is capital and it's singular. The word is singular. And then hit enter, and then let's create the third model. So the third model is going to be the bookings. It's going to be booking without an S. So booking, and then hit enter, and this is going to create the third model. So now we have three models. We have the department and the appointment and the booking models respectively. So where have these models been created? These models have been created in the app and then models. If you open up the models, you should find three classes. You should find the appointment, the booking, and the department. And if you open them and check them, you'll find that they are just classes. They are just simple classes that all of them extend the model class. That's it. This is all what they do. But behind the scenes, they are super powerful because they connect to the database and they will allow us to get data from the database. Now, in order to use the data that has been inserted into the database, we need to create what's called models. So models are going to connect to the database and get data from the database. So in order to create models, we need to click on View and then Terminal, and then we need to create three models. We need to create actually three models. Each model is going to connect to a database, is going to connect to a table. So we have three tables. We have the departments, we have the bookings, and we have the appointments. So I'm going to create the first model. I'm going to say PHP, and then artisan, and then make, and then colon model, and then the name of the model. The name of the model should start with a capital letter. I'm going to say department, and unlike tables, it should be singular, not plural. So do not name it departments. It should be department, only department, singular, and then hit enter. This is going to create the first model. Let's create the second model. So the second model is going to be appointment. Again, the first letter is capital and it's singular. The word is singular. And then hit enter, and then let's create the third model. So the third model is going to be the bookings. It's going to be booking without an S. So booking, and then hit enter, and this is going to create the third model. So now we have three models. We have the department and the appointment and the booking models respectively. So where have these models been created? These models have been created in the app and then models. If you open up the models, you should find three classes. You should find the appointment, the booking, and the department. And if you open them and check them, you'll find that they are just classes. They are just simple classes that all of them extend the model class. That's it. This is all what they do. But behind the scenes, they are super powerful because they connect to the database and they will allow us to get data from the database. So now what we need to do is that we need to connect to the database and get departments from the database. And to do that, we need to use the controller. So I'm going to open up the app and then HTTP and then the controllers and then the project controller. And in the project controller, I'm going to create a function that's going to connect to the departments table and get all of the departments from the departments table. So what I'm going to do here is that I'm going to create a function. I'm going to say public, and then function, function, and then I'm going to name it get all departments. And then this should take the request. I'm going to say request, and then what we need to do is that we need to use the department model. So at the top, we need to import the department model. So here, if I say here department, if I say department, it's going to automatically import the department model. And if it doesn't, you need to add this code. You need to add use and then app /models /department. You need to add this code at the top if it hasn't been added automatically. And then we need to call a function called all. Here I'm going to call a function. So here what we need to do is that we need to call a function called get all. We need to call a function called all here, all, double colons, and then all. And then this is going to get all of the departments that we have in the database. And then I'm going to store the result in a variable called departments. So departments is going to be equal to department all. And then I'm going to say return, and then I'm going to return to the main view. I'm going to say view, and then index. I'm going to return to the index. And then I'm going to say comma, and then I'm going to return with the departments. I'm going to say departments, and the value is just going to be departments. And we need to create the URL. So I'm going to open up the web.php. We need to open up the roots and then web.php and create a root for the get all departments. We need to create a root for it. So here I'm going to say root get, and then I'm going to name it. I'm going to actually I should use the main root because the main root should get the department. So I'm going to remove this and I'm going to use this instead. I'm going to say get all departments. Get all departments. So this is going to be our root, which is the main root. And the first function is no longer important. So you can remove this function, or you can leave it for testing if you want to test this function later. But this is what we need now here is to use this get all departments. Finally, we need to open up the view and use the views, and then the index.blade.php, and then we need to display the departments. So since the departments is going to be an array, because the departments, this departments is going to be an array of departments. So we need to loop over it in the index.php, .blade.php. So we need to loop over it in order to display all of the departments in the front end. So now in the index.blade.php, we need to loop over the department. So here, what I'm going to do is that I'm going to use for each. I'm going to say at for each, and then I'm going to use here the departments. I'm going to say $, and then departments as departments as department. And then at the end, I'm going to say here at and for each. And in between, we can display the departments. So in between here, I'm going to display what do we have? Remember, we have the name, the description, and the image. So I'm going to say here name, double curly braces, and then I'm going to say department name, and here department description, and finally the image. So for the image, I'm going to say source, and then double quotes, and then double curly braces, and then departments image. And it's very important to give this image a style. You need to say style. And the style is going to be a fixed. It should be a fixed width. I'm going to say, let's say 200 or 300. Let's say 200 and test. Let me now save that. Let me open up the terminal. And then let's run our project. I'm going to say PHP artisan serve. And then I'm going to hit enter and check how it's going to look like. So let me head on over to the browser to test. So as you can see, it's going to look like this, but we need to center the images. So if you center the images, it's going to look better. So here I'm going to say style, and then I'm going to say margin, and then 0, auto, 0 and auto. This should center the images. So I'm going to say here 0 and auto, and then I'm going to refresh, and this should center all of the images. And all of the images should be centered right now. So as you can see, all of the images now have been centered. So as you can see, it looks much, much better. And we have here duplicate images. You can remove one of them from the database. And for example, here, if you remove this, I think we have this twice. I'm going to remove this. And then I'm going to click on OK, delete. And now if I refresh, we should only have 6 departments. Of course, you can add as many departments as you want. So now what I'm going to do here is that I'm going to display a button that's going to take the user to a page where it's going to display appointments. So each clinic or each department should have appointments. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to display a button here. So to do that, here in the index, what I'm going to do is that I'm going to create a form here. Here below this body, we need to create a form. I'm going to create here. I'm going to say form. And then I'm going to give this form first a method, and the method is going to be post, an action. So the action is going to be the URL that we need to use in order to handle the request. So the action is going to be route, and it's going to be a route that's going to take the user to a route that's going to display the appointment. So I'm going to say show here appointments. And we need to create this route. So we need to create this route in the web. So in the web, I'm going to create here, I'm going to say route, and then post, and then / show appointments, and then the name of the controller and the name of the function. So the controller is the project controller, and the function obviously is going to be named. The function is going to be named show appointments. And then we need to give this route a name called show appointments, because this show appointments, this name refers to this. Let me fix this. Refers to this URL. So here in the index.blade.php, I'm saying here route show appointments, which means that I want you, I'm telling Laravel, hey Laravel, this form should use a route that has a name called show appointments, which is this route, that has a name called show appointments, which has this show appointments URL. And in the project controller, we need to create a function here called show appointments. I'm going to say function public function, and then show appointments, and then request. And I'm going to work on the function later, but for now, what I'm going to do is that I'm going to work on the form here. We need here, for this form, we need 2 inputs. We need an input for the department ID. So this is going to be text, and the value is going to be equal to the department ID, because we want the department ID in order to get appointments that this department has. And we need a button in order to let the user go to see the appointments. I'm going to say here submit. The type is going to be submit, and the value is just going to be show appointments. And let's give it a class. I'm going to say class, and the class is going to be btn primary. And this is going to be hidden. I'm going to say here style, and then style, and the style is going to be display none, because we don't want to show the ID. The ID is not important. So let me save everything. I'm going to click on save all, and then I'm going to head on over to the browser to test. I'm going to click on save all, and then in the browser, let me refresh, and we should have here a button. So as you can see here, we have a button, show appointments. Of course, if I click on it, nothing is going to happen because the show appointments function, we did not work on it for now. And by the way, let me add here some space because I think this is very close. So I'm going to say here, style, and then margin, let's say margin top 5. And let me now refresh. By the way, this should be a class. This should be class, and then class margin top 5, which is a Bootstrap class. Now let me refresh one more time. And this is a very big space. Let me decrease this to 3, let's say 3 or 2 even. 2 is enough. So if I say 2, now as you can see, the space is much less. So it looks very, very good. And we need to work on the function. So now what we need to do is that we need to insert appointments in the appointments table, because once the user clicks on show appointments of one of these clinics or departments, we need to show all of the appointments that this specific clinic or department has. So here I have created these SQL commands or code that's going to insert a few appointments to each of these departments. So for example, here the first one we have here, insert into appointments, and then the department name is obviously eyes, and then here the department ID is 1, because if you go to the departments, if you click on departments, you will find that eyes has an ID of 1, ears has an ID of 2, psychiatry has an ID of 3, bone has an ID of 4, etc. So this is very, very important. The ID is very, very important. Let me go back to the appointments, and let me click on SQL, and then let me paste the code one more time. So the code, this is the code, the appointments, and then the appointment date. The appointment date is the date that you want for this appointment to take place. So for example, here, this year, and then month, and then day, and then the hour here. This is a 24-hour format. So it's 12 here. It should be 12 in the afternoon. So, and then the last one is taken. Taken should always be 0, because you are the admin of this system, and you should always, whenever you insert a new appointment, it must be 0, because users, if you say that this, if you assign this to, if you change this to 1, it means that somebody has registered or made an appointment, has booked this appointment. So you need to keep always keep this 0 unless somebody books this appointment. So I'm going to provide this code for you, don't worry, this code, so that you insert the appointments quickly. You can, by the way, you can click on, if you don't want to use SQL, you can use the insert here. If you click on insert, you will be able to insert the appointments like this. You can here insert the ID, for example. The ID should be, by the way, the ID should be automatic. So the ID will be added automatically. Don't insert the ID, just leave it empty. The department name should be one of these departments, for example, eyes. And then the department ID must match one of these IDs. So it must be 1, 2, 3, or whatever ID you have. You need to check the ID from the departments table. And then we have the appointment date. You need to select the date from here. So you have this in PHP My Admin. You can select an accurate date and an accurate time. So be careful when you select the date, because you don't want to select a wrong date. So you can select any date you want, any year you want, any time, And you can play around with the time here. You can select the time, and it's a 24-hour format. So you need here to pay attention to this. So for example, here 22, it means 10 in the evening. And then we have taken. Taken should always be 0. Whenever you insert, taken should always be 0. Created add and updated add should be left empty. Just leave them empty. And this is how you can insert. Once you are done, just click on go, and this is going to insert an appointment. But I prefer using SQL because it's much faster. So I'm going to use SQL, and then I'm going to click on go, and this is going to insert all of these. And if you click on appointments, you should have so many appointments, as you can see. For the eyes, we have 1, 2, 3. For the ears, we have 1, 2, 3. For the psychiatry, we have 1, 2, 3. Of course, you can insert more appointments to different departments, but for now, I'm just going to keep it like this. And as you can see, the taken should always be 0. And the time, you can change the time. And the ID is going to be automatic. So the ID should be left empty because it's going to be created by PHP MyAdmin, by the database. So now what we need to do is that we need to show the appointments. So if the user, for example, clicks on show appointments, we need to display the appointments here. So to do that, first of all, we need to work on the show appointments. So we need to get the appointments that belongs to one of these departments. So if the user clicks on show appointments of the eyes, we need to go to the database and get the eyes appointments. So to do that, here, remember in the index, I said here the input. The input has a value, and that value is the department ID. So we have the ID, but we need to give this input a name. We need to say here name, and the name is going to be, let's say, department ID, because we want to access the department ID from that input. And to do that, here in the project controller, now this request has that ID. So we can use the request. We can say here request, and then input, and then we can access the department ID. And then I'm going to store this in a variable called department ID. Now, the next step is that we need to make a request and get to the database and get all of the appointments that belong to this apartment. So to do that, we need to use the appointment model. Remember the appointment model. So I'm going to say appointment, and we need to import the appointment model at the top. So at the top here, you need to say use app for a /models/appointment. This is very, very important. And then the next step is that we need to say where the ID, where the department ID, the department ID is equal to the department ID. Because we don't want to get all of these appointments. We only want to get appointments that belong to one of these departments, according to depending on which department the user clicked on. So if the user clicked on the first one, we only need to get these 4 appointments. So here we need to say where department ID is equal to the department ID, and then we just need to call a function called get to get these appointments. And then I'm going to store the appointments in a variable called appointments. And finally, we need to pass the appointments to the view. So I'm going to say return view, and then the view is going to be called appointments. And then I'm going to say comma, and then I'm going to pass the appointments in a key called appointments. And the value obviously is going to be the appointments. That's it. Now we need to create the appointments view. So in the view, I'm going to create here. Here, I'm going to open up the view, and then I'm going to create here in the, not this one, actually this one. resources, and then views, and then I'm going to click on the views, right click, and then new file, and then I'm going to create a file called appointments.blade.php. And then I'm going to add the code to display all of the appointments that I want here in this file. So here what I'm going to do is that I'm going to copy the code from the index. I'm going to copy the code from here because it's going to be similar. I'm going to copy the code from here, and then I'm going to paste it here in the appointments. However, we need to remove this part. We need to remove this part. I'm going to remove this part completely. I'm going to remove this, and also this div. And then in between here, we need to work on displaying the appointments. And I'm going to do that by using the table given by Bootstrap. So now we need to work on this table. So I have created this table. It's very simple table, and then I give that table two classes, table, hover, and table. And then we have the head, t-head, and t-body. The t-head must display the columns. So what are the columns that we have? The columns are the department name, the appointment ID, the department ID, the appointment date, and the status, taken or not. So we need to display these as columns. So I'm going to say here ID, and then the second thing is department name. I'm going to say here department name, and then the third thing is department ID. Department ID is not important. To the user, it's not important, but for us, it's important. So I'm not going to display the department ID. Instead, I'm going to display the department date, which is very, very important, of course, and the taken. So we need to display the department date here. Department date and the status, or taken or not. Let's say taken or status. And now, instead of displaying this, we need to loop over the appointments because we have, remember, we have appointments. Here we have appointments. And this is an array. So we need to say here, we need to say for each appointments as appointment, and then we need to display the appointments, and here at the end we need to say at end for each. So in between we need to display the department name. First here the ID, I'm gonna say here department double curly braces, and then department ID, and then double curly braces. Let me copy this, and then let me paste it here. Department, the second thing is department. Actually, this is the department ID. Actually, this should be the appointment, not the department. So this should be appointment ID, and then appointment, and then department ID. And actually, I'm not going to display the department ID. I should display the department name. So again, the first column is the appointment ID. This is the ID, and then the department name. Here, appointment department name, and then here it should be $, and then appointment, and then department date, and finally the taken. So the taken here is Boolean, so it's going to be 0 or 1. Therefore, we need to use if statement in order to check whether the user will be able to book it or not. So I'm going to say here at if, and then I'm going to check here. I'm going to say if appointment, if appointment taken, if taken, then we need to display something. Else, here, else, we need to display another thing. And finally, we need to say at and if. So if the appointment is taken, I'm going to say the appointment is taken. I'm going to say you can't book this. And if it's not taken, then we need to display a button in order to let the user book this. So I'm going to create here a form, and then form, and then I'm going to display a button. Here I'm going to say input, and then type submit, and the value is going to be book, and the class is going to be btn primary, and this should be inside td. So I'm going to say here td, and at the end I'm going to say td, and that's it. Let me push this, and now what we need to do is that we need to here in the index, before we test, we need to add this code. We need here to say at CSRF. What is this? This is a code that's going to protect the form from hackers. This is very, very important. You need to add this. Otherwise, it's not going to work. And finally, we need to check the code one more time. So the view here, this is fine. Nothing is wrong here. The appointment, so we have everything. So let's test. So I'm going to click on File and then Save All. And let me go back and refresh now. And let me click on Show Appointments. So if I click on Show Appointments, as you can see, I'm going to get here the appointment ID, the department name, the department date, and the taken. So we have a problem with the department date. It's empty. The reason is because this actually should be appointment date, not department date. There is no, I have here a problem. It should be appointment date, not appointment department date. Of course, the department should not have a date. So this is just a appointment date. This is just a mistake because we have so many information, and we, as developers, we usually make these very simple mistakes. So let me refresh one more time. And as you can see, I'm going to get here the appointment. Here again, I need to fix this. Here should be appointment date, not department. Let me refresh again. And as you can see here, it's going to say appointment date and department date and taken, if it's taken or not. And it looks amazing, actually. The table here looks amazing. And you can add at the top, you can add here H1 or H2. And then you can give it a class, text, center, margin top 2. And here say appointments. And here it should look amazing. As you can see, it's going to look like this. Let me add margin bottom 2. And let me also change the font. I'm going to say style, font, family. Let's check. Let's select this one, for example. And let's also add font color. I'm going to change the color to anything else. Let me select this color. And let me refresh. And as you can see, it looks amazing. And you can play around with this. And it just looks very, very good. So now what we need to do is that we need to allow the user to book an appointment. And by the way, I have here changed the color of the table. You can change the color. You can do whatever you want. And now let's work on the allowing the user or the patient to book an appointment. How can we do that? To do that, we need to create a route, and we need to create a function that's going to allow the user to book that appointment. So here in the web.php, we need to create a route here. I'm going to create a route. I'm going to say route, and that route is going to here going to be post, and then I'm going to say book appointment, book appointment, book appointment, and then the controller is going to be just project controller, and then the function is going to be book appointment, comma, and then book appointment, and the name is going to be just going to be book appointment. Now we need to work on the form. Remember, I have created here in the appointments.blade.php, I have created a form, and we need to add here input. So what do we want to pass with us in order to let the user book an appointment? What we want to pass is that we want to pass obviously the appointment ID. So I'm going to say here the type, the first one is going to be text, and the value is going to be equal to double curly braces and double quotes, and then double curly braces, and then appointment ID. And then we need to give it a name. I'm going to say name. The name is going to be appointment ID. Appointment ID. Next, we need to pass the department name. Department here. We need to say appointment and then department name. And then here, department name. And finally, we need to pass the date. The date is very, very important. So I'm going to copy this, and then I'm going to paste it below, and then I'm going to say appointment, and then appointment date. Here, it's going to be appointment date. And here, appointment date. And now, here, date. Now we need to give this form method. The method obviously is going to be post and action. So the action is going to be equal to double curly braces root, and then it is going to be the root that we created earlier, which is book appointment. And now we need to create the function. We need to create the book appointment function. So in the project controller, I'm going to create a function. I'm going to say here, I'm going to say public function, and then book appointment, and then request, and then what we need to do here is that we need to the logic here is a little bit complicated, but you need to pay attention to this because this is very, very important. This is one of the most important concepts that you need to understand, because otherwise you would miss out on a lot of important information. First of all, we need to get the data from the form. So we need to get the ID, the name, and the date. To do that, we already know that we can use the request and then input, and then we can access the first one. The first name is this appointment ID. So here I'm going to say appointment ID, and then I'm going to store it Let me copy it first. And then I'm going to store it in a variable called appointment ID. Appointment ID. Second, we want to change. We want to get the department name and the department date or appointment date. Appointment date. So we need to get the department name here. Department name. And then I'm going to store it in a variable called department name. And finally, we need to get the appointment date. Appointment date. And then I'm going to store it in a variable called appointment date. Now, what we need to do is that we need to check whether the booking, the booking has already been, the appointment has been booked or not. Because if it has been booked, then we need to prevent the user from booking the same appointment as another user. And to do that, we need to use the booking model. So I'm going to say here booking, and make sure that you import it at the top. Make sure that you import here. Make sure that you say use and then app and then backslash models and then backslash booking. You need to add this code. And then here I'm going to say booking, and I'm going to say where the appointment ID is equal to the appointment ID. Then here I'm going to call a function called exists. So what does this mean? This line of code is going to go to the booking table, and then it's going to check whether the appointment has been booked or not. So here, if you go to the booking, the bookings now obviously is empty. But once we have bookings, it is going to check whether the booking, the ID exists or not, whether the appointment has already been booked or not. So if the appointment ID is here, it means that somebody has booked that before. So this is what it means, because the appointment ID is going to be unique. And so what I'm going to do here is that I'm going to store this in a variable called exists. I'm going to say exists, and then I'm going to check. I'm going to use if statement to check if it's true or false. So I'm going to say if it exists, then we need to tell the user that it has been booked by somebody else. Else we need to book that appointment. So to tell the user that it has been booked by somebody else, we can use the flash message. So I'm going to say here session, and then flash, and then message, and then the message. I'm going to say appointment was already taken or booked. And we need to import the session class at the top. We need to say use illuminate, support facades, and then sessions. Not sessions, session, just singular. And then we need here to use again the session. I'm going to say session, and then I'm going to say flash, and I'm gonna give slash, and then I'm gonna give this message a red color. I'm gonna say alert class, and then alert danger. This is gonna give the message a red color, and then I'm gonna just say return to the home page. I'm gonna say return redirect to the home page, which is the /. This is in case the session the appointment has been booked. If it hasn't been booked, then we need to book this appointment. So to book the appointment, what we need to do is that we need to create a new booking. I'm gonna say new booking, and it's gonna be equal to, I'm gonna store it in a variable called booking, and then we need to fill the booking with information. So we need to get the information from the remember from here, we need to get the information, the appointment ID, the name, and the date. So I'm gonna say booking appointment ID, appointment ID is gonna be equal to the appointment ID. For the booking, for the name and the date, I'm gonna say booking department name is gonna be equal to the department name. And then we also need to say booking, and then department appointment date. Appointment date is going to be equal to the appointment date. Finally, we need to remember the booking has the user ID and the username. How can we get the username and the user ID? Well, it's very, very important and very easy as well. To get the username and the user ID, we need to use the authentication class. So I'm going to say here, I'm going to say booking user name is going to be equal to the auth user ID. User ID. This is going to get me the, actually here name. This is going to get me the name. For the ID, we need to say auth booking, first booking, and then user ID is going to be equal to the auth user ID. And finally, we need to say booking save. We need to save that. We need to insert that into the database. Booking save. And we need to import the authentication class. So at the top, we need to say use Illuminate support facades or authentication auth. This is very important. You need to import this auth class at the top. And now we are good to go. The last thing that we need to do before we end this, we need to copy this session, and then these 3 lines, we need to copy these 3 lines, and then we need to paste them here, and then we need to tell the user here, tell user that the appointment was booked. So I'm going to say here appointment booked successfully. And here the class is going to be success. And then we redirect to the home page. There is no problem with this. So now let me save everything. And before we test, we need to in the web, we need to add something very, very important, because if we don't add it, it's not going to work, which is preventing the user from going to the book appointment route unless they are already logged in. Because if they are not logged in, it's not going to work, and you are going to get an error. You are definitely going to get an error if you don't add this. So what I'm going to do here is that I'm going to say here middleware auth. Middleware auth. What this does is that it is going to prevent users who are not registered and who did not log in from making an appointment. So if you are not logged in, you cannot make an appointment. Similarly, for showing the appointments, I think it's better to say for showing the appointments, you can say middleware and then auth, which means that only logged in users will be able to see the appointments. Let me now save and let me head on over to the browser to test. So I'm going to refresh here. And if I refresh, let me go back and let me refresh. If I click on show appointments, it is not going to work because I'm not logged in. So as you can see, it's going to take me to the login page because I'm not logged in. So this is how it's going to work. So I'm going to click again on show appointments. If I click on it, it's going to take me to the login page because I need to log in first before I will be able to make an appointment. So now what we need to do is that we need to add a link to the login here, because if the user doesn't have an account, they will not be able to log in. So they need to register first. So you need to open up, if you go to your project and open the views, you'll find that we have here auth. You need to open the login, and then we need to add a link. So here at the bottom, I'm gonna say a tag, and then I'm gonna add here href, and it's gonna be equal to root, double curly braces, and then root, and that root is gonna take the register, and here I'm gonna say register. Let me save and let me head over back to the browser and refresh. Now we have the register link. If I click on it, it's gonna take me to the registration form. So let me now register. So I'm gonna register here, and then I'm gonna click on register, create an account. Here I'm gonna click on register, and as you can see, it created an account. Let me go back to the main page. I'm gonna go to the main page, and then I'm gonna click on show appointments. As you can see, it's gonna show me the appointments, but we need to hide, first of all, we need to hide these inputs. Remember, if you open up the appointments, we need to hide these inputs because we don't want to show the user these things. So I'm gonna say here style, and then display none, and then I'm gonna copy this over to the second and the third inputs, this one and this one. Let me now save and refresh one more time, and now we have here, as you can see, you have here the appointments. Let me click on book and test this. If I click on book, so it's not going to work. And the problem is we need to add the CSRF here. We need to say at CSRF. Good, this CSRF. Let me try one more time. So I'm gonna go back, and then I'm gonna refresh, and then I'm gonna click on book one more time. And as you can see, it took me to the main page, which means that it worked. And if I go to the database, I should have here in the bookings, I should have, as you can see, I have booked this appointment here, my name, my user ID, my appointment ID, the department ID, the appointment date, everything worked successfully. So now I booked an appointment at the hospital. Now, what we need to do is that we need to display a message. Here we need to display a message, a flash message, to tell the user that they have booked successfully. This is very, very important. And to do that, what I'm going to do is that I'm going to go to the index and display that message at the top of the index page. So now what we need to do is that we need to display the flash message once the user books an appointment. So to do that, remember here we have in the flash session, we have a message here in case the user has booked successfully. In case the in case the booking was booked by somebody else, we also have a message. So to display these messages, we need to open up the index, and then in the index, we need to say at if session if session has a message, then what we need to do is that we need to display that message. So I'm going to say here I'm going to display here p paragraph tag, and then for this paragraph tag, I'm going to give it a class. First of all, I'm going to say class, and that class is going to be equal to alert, and then double key the braces, and then session, and then get alert class, and then comma, and then the alert info. Let me explain what this does. And let me first here display the message. I'm going to say session get, and then what we want to get is that we want to get the message. So this alert class is this class. Remember, we passed here the alert class, which is the alert danger, and here the alert success. And this is going to be used here to get the class and display it here with the alert info. And then we display the message as well. And at the end here, we need to say at end if. Let me now save, let me head on over to the browser and test. So if I click on here, for example, show appointments, and let me here book an appointment. So let me log in first. So as you can see, I need first to log in, and then I will be able to make an appointment if I log in. So let me here click on show appointments, and let me here, for example, let me book this one. And as you can see, it's going to say appointment booked successfully, but we have a problem with the session here. Let me check this one more time. Here, session get alert, and then session get alert class, and comma, and then alert info. But here in the project, I think here it should be success. So I have a problem here. It should be success. So let me test one more time. So I'm gonna click on show appointments, and let me here book this one, for example. And here, as you can see, it's gonna say appointment booked successfully in case it has been booked successfully. Otherwise, it's gonna display the other message. So now what we need to do is that we need to change the status if I book an appointment. Because if I book an appointment, if I click on, for example, show appointments, and if I book one, it's going to be registered. If you open up the bookings, you'll find that I have these 3 appointments, but the status, if you go back to the appointments, you'll find that the status is the taken is 0, which means that other users will be able to book the same exact appointments that I booked, and we don't want that. This is going to make conflicts in our website and in our system, and many patients will be able to register and book the same appointment, and of course we don't want that. And to fix this problem, we need to change the taken from 0 to 1 once somebody makes an appointment. So remember here in the book appointment, just after the appointment has been created, we need here to say change appointment status to 1, which means taken, which means it has been taken. But how can we translate that into code? Well, it's very simple. All we need to do here in order to change the status from the taken from 0 to 1, we need to use the appointment here, we need to say appointment. Here we need to say appointment, and then we need to say where ID is equal to the appointment ID. This appointment ID, which is this appointment ID. And then after that, we need to update. We need to call a function called update to change the value. So I'm going to say update, and this update function takes an array. So I'm going to say here array with the values. So I'm going to change the taken from 0 to 1. I'm going to say taken. I'm going to say here taken now is going to be equal to 1. It is going to be equal to 1 once somebody makes an appointment. Pretty simple. Let me make sure that it's correct here. Let me save. And let me now head on over to the browser to test. So let me book an appointment. So for example, let me first refresh and let me book an appointment. For example, this one. If I click on book, it will be booked. As you can see, appointment booked successfully. And the status, if you update the appointments, you will find that here, this appointment has been taken. As you can see, the status now is 1. But the old appoint manually because the feature was not there once back then when I registered for these appointments. So I'm going to remove these appointments. So I'm going to remove this and this and this one. So now if I log out, let me go to the dashboard. I'm going to say dashboard, and let me log out. And I'm going to show you something amazing. If I log out, if I click on log out, and if I go back to the year's appointment, I should find that if I log in with somebody else, let me register with somebody else. So if I register with somebody else's account, and if I check the appointments, let me go back to the home page, and let me click on show appointments. You'll find that here, this appointment, it says you cannot book this appointment because somebody else has booked it, which is me. So now I'm logged in with somebody else's account. I'm logged in. If you go to the dashboard, you'll find that I am another person now. I am another person. As you can see, I'm another person. Therefore, if I go to the ears, clinic or department, I should find that this appointment has been taken, and this is correct because if you go to the bookings, you'll find that I have booked this appointment, which has an ID of 7. And if you go to the appointments, you'll find that appointment number 7. As you can see, this appointment number 7 has already been taken. So here 1, which means that it's taken. So I have registered for this appointment, and if other people will not be able to register or book the same appointment that I booked. So the last thing that we need to do is that we need to display the bookings, all of the bookings that I have made or somebody has booked. So to do that, we need to create a route first. I'm going to create a route. I'm going to open up the web here. I'm going to open up the web. And then in the web, I'm going to create a new route. I'm going to create here a new route. I'm going to say route and then post. Actually, get. We don't need a post. I'm going to say get. And then I'm going to say my bookings. And then I'm going to say comma and then project controller class my bookings. And then the name is going to be my bookings. And finally, we need to use the middleware because we don't want anyone to access this unless they are logged in. Now we need to create a function called my bookings. So in the project controller, I'm going to create a function here. I'm going to say project. I'm going to say a public function, and then my bookings, and then request. And then we need to get all of the bookings that belong to me or to somebody who is logged in or is using the system. To do that, we just need their ID, because by using their ID, if I have my ID or somebody's ID, I will be able to use that ID to get all of the appointments that they made, that they booked. So I'm gonna say here booking, and then where, and then user ID. We need to use the user ID in order to get, by knowing the user ID, I will be able to get all bookings that belong to a specific user. So by using the user ID, and to get the user ID, we need to use the auth and then user ID. User and then ID. And then we just need to say here get. This is going to get us all of the bookings that belong to somebody, one person, only one person. I'm going to say here bookings. So bookings is going to be equal to booking, where user ID is equal to the logged in user ID, and then get. And then we just need to return. I'm going to say return, and then view, and then I'm going to create a view called my bookings, and then I'm going to return the bookings in an array. I'm going to say bookings is equal to bookings. That's it. Now we need to create the bookings view. So in the view, I'm going to open up the view. Let me pause all of these. Here in the views, I'm going to create a new file, and I'm going to name it bookings.blade.php. And we need to add code to it. And the code is going to be very, very similar to the appointments, because I'm going to display the bookings in a table. So I'm going to copy the code from the appointments, and then I'm going to paste it in the bookings. But we need to change a few things. First of all, here at the top, we need to display, instead of appointments, I'm going to say bookings. My bookings. And here in the table columns, we need to display, for the bookings, we need to display the appointment ID, the department name, and the department date, and also the booking ID. So the booking ID first, and then the appointment ID second. Here I'm going to say appointment ID. And here you can say booking ID, so that you don't confuse the user. Booking ID and appointment ID, and then the department name, and then appointment date. Here, appointment date. So here I'm gonna loop over the bookings. So here I'm gonna say bookings, and then as booking, and then here I'm gonna say booking ID, and then booking appointment ID, and then the department name, and finally the date. So I'm gonna here say TD, and then double curly braces, and then booking Here, by the way, it should be booking, and then a department name, and then here booking, and finally appointment date. There is no appointment taken, so I'm going to remove all of this. I'm going to remove all of this code, and you just need to keep, of course, the end for each. Don't remove this end for each. Now let me save and let me head on over to the browser to test. So let me again check this one more time. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, and here 1, 2, 3, 4. So let me now refresh, and we need to go here / and then my booking or my bookings. And now here it doesn't exist, so we have a problem. Let me check one more time. The URL was my bookings. Here I should add /. So here, don't forget the / here, / and let me refresh. Now it should work. So as you can see here, we have the booking ID, the appointment ID, the department name, and the year. So we have a problem here with the table. So we should here in the bookings, we should have 1, 2, 3, 4, and here row. So now what we need to do is that we need to fix this problem here. I have a broken HTML code. I forgot here the / with the th here, and if I save and refresh, it is going to be fixed. As you can see, it has been fixed. So it worked successfully, and now we have all of the bookings. Whenever I book something, let me go back to the home page, and let me show you that it works. So for example, if I book here, let me book this appointment. As you can see, it's gonna say here appointment booked successfully. And if I go to the / my bookings, it should be displayed here. As you can see, I booked this appointment. So it works successfully. Now you might be wondering, what if you want to cancel an appointment? Well, the problem with canceling is that if you give the users the ability to cancel appointments, some users will misuse the system and could just book an appointment and then cancel it, and book it again and cancel it, and play with your system. And you shouldn't allow users to do that. Therefore, you can here you can display cancel. You can here say cancel th, and then cancel, and then you need to tell the user to call you, so that you have you as the owner or your staff are responsible for canceling. So they can, your people, your business, the hospital is here, is responsible and has the power of canceling the appointment. So here I'm gonna say please call this number. So it's a fake number, so don't call this number because this is just a fake number for testing. So here, cancel, call this number. Please call, let me say here, please call this number. You can say here, want to cancel. Let me say want to cancel. And here, it's going to say, please call this number. So this is very important. You shouldn't allow users to cancel the appointment or appointments whenever they want, because it's going to be a problem unless you want to do so for some reason. If you want to allow users to cancel, you can simply delete. You can add a link here that's going to delete the appointment. So the last thing that I'm going to do is that I'm going to display here my bookings in the navigation bar, because as you can see there, I would have to go to my bookings here every single time. Instead of doing that, we need to add it here in the top at the top. So I'm going to open up the header. I'm going to open up the header. I'm going to go to the header. We have here layouts and then header. And then in the header, what I'm going to do is that I'm going to add the link. Instead of features, you can add my bookings. And then the href is going to be double curly braces, and then root, and then my bookings. Let me now save, and let me head over to the browser to test. So the browser, let me refresh. And if I click here on my bookings, it's going to take me to the my bookings. If I go to the home page, and if I click on my bookings, it's going to take me to my bookings. And if I log out, guess what? If I go to dashboard, by the way, you can add a dashboard here. You can add here a link to the dashboard. I'm going to say here, I'm going to copy this, and then I'm going to paste it here. And then I'm going to say my dashboard, and then here, dashboard. And for the home, you can here, for the home, by the way, you can say href, and it's going to be equal to root, and here the root has, I think the root for the home, it doesn't have a name, so we need to give it a name here. I'm going to say name, and it's going to be home. And here it's going to be home. And the brand here, let's say C, any fake name. And then let me go back and refresh. And as you can see, it's going to display the brand name and then the home. If I click on home, it's going to take me to the home page. If I click on my bookings, it's going to take me to the my bookings. If I click on my dashboard, it's going to take me to the dashboard where I can log in, or where I can check my profile and I can log out. And if you want to customize this, you can open up the dashboard. And I'm not going to be working on the dashboard because this work is just web design, and this is not a web design course. This is Laravel course. So you can here change this completely if you wish to do so. And this is going to change the design of this. And now our system is complete. Lastly, if I log out, let me show you what's going to happen if I log out. So if I log out, I'm going to show you that the system is protected, is fully protected, because now if I click on my dashboard, it's going to take me to the login page. And the login page has the register link. So I told you that here, when it comes to cancellation, it's very important to have power over cancellation, because unfortunately, if you give users the power to cancel their bookings, some users would just mess around with your system. But if you still want to give users the power to cancel their appointments, I'm going to show you how you can do that. So to do that, we need to create a URL here in the web. I'm going to create a new URL. I'm going to say root, and then it's going to be post, and it's going to, let's give it a URL of cancel. I'm going to say cancel booking, and then comma, and then project controller class. Let's say cancel booking, and the name is just going to be cancel booking, and the middleware is going to be auth. And now what we need to do is that we need to, let me open up the bookings. So I'm going to open up my bookings, in the bookings here, we need to add a button. So instead of saying you can add this, or you can add a here TD button, TD and then form, and then for this form we need to give it, we need two inputs, one input for input, one input for a button, and one input for the booking ID. So here I'm going to say input, and then type. The type is going to be text, and the value is going to be booking ID. Booking ID. And also the name is going to be booking ID. And the input is going to be submit. And the value is going to be cancel. And let's also give it a class. I'm going to say class btn danger. And here the form, I'm going to say method post. And the value, the action is going to be the route that we just created, which was cancel, booking. And don't forget the CSRF. I'm going to say here at CSRF. And now what we need to do is that we need to comment this out for now. And in the project controller, we need to create the function here, public function, and then cancel booking. And I'm going to say request. And then the code is going to be like this. First, we need to get the ID. I'm going to say request, and then input, and then booking ID. And once we have the booking ID, all we need to do is that we need to remove that booking from the system. I'm going to say booking ID is equal to this. So we need to access the booking. I'm going to say booking, and then where booking, where ID is equal to the booking ID, and then we need to remove it from the booking. So booking, and then booking ID, and then delete. This is going to delete it from the system. This is going to delete it from the system completely. So let me here save, and let me return. And I'm going to say here return, and what I'm going to return to, I'm going to return to the redirect, and then to the /. And I'm going to display a message. I'm going to say here session. Let me copy the code because the code is going to be similar. I'm going to copy this, and then I'm going to say, I'm going to paste it, and then I'm going to say appointment canceled successfully. And you can, by the way, you can return that appointment so that somebody else can book that. So to do that, you can say appointment. You can here say appointment, and then where ID is equal to the appointment ID. But we need to get the appointment ID. So I'm going to say here appointment ID, and then update, and then taken is going to be 0, so that somebody else now can book this. So we need to get the booking ID. So First, I'm gonna get it from here. I'm gonna get it here. I'm gonna say appointment ID, which is gonna be equal to request, and then input, and then book, and then appointment ID. Appointment ID. And we need to get it, so I'm gonna appointment ID, and here appointment ID. So in the bookings, we need to pass it. So in the input here, I'm gonna create a new input. I'm gonna copy this input, and then I'm gonna paste it here, and then I'm gonna change this to appointment ID, appointment underscore ID, and here appointment ID. Let me now save, and let me head on over to the browser to test. So now in the browser, let me refresh, and I should have here a button. By the way, we need to hide these. I forgot to hide these. I'm gonna say style, and then display none. And similarly here, I'm gonna copy this one, and then I'm gonna paste it here. We shouldn't show these. Let me refresh one more time. And now let me click on cancel. For example, here, if I cancel this, it should be canceled. So as you can see, it says here appointment canceled successfully. And if I go back to my appointment, to my appointments, to my bookings, if I go back to my bookings, I should have less appointments. Let me cancel this as well. Now, if I cancel this, it's going to say appointment canceled successfully, and my bookings will be less, will be only three. And if you go, let me go to check the bookings. For example, if I go to my bookings and cancel the appointment number 6, which belongs to the ears clinic, I'm going to cancel this, and I'm going to go to booking. I'm going to go to booking number. I'm going to go to appointments, and I'm going to go to appointment number 6. As you can see now, the appointment number 6 now is available. So I can book it again, or somebody else can book it. So this is how it works. And again, allowing users to cancel their appointments is a double-edged sword. So it has its advantages, and it has also its disadvantages. So it's up to you whether you want to allow users to cancel their appointments by themselves, or they should call this number, for example, your number, in order to have control over the cancellation. And in terms of controlling the system, you always have PHP MyAdmin or any other database client or database user interface that you can use. And I recommend using PHP MyAdmin. It's great. You can control the system from here. You can go to the database and control the system. You can add the appointments to the appointments, and whenever you add an appointment, it will automatically be added to the front end, where users will be able to see the appointments here whenever they click on a specific clinic or department. They will be able to see that. And you can, of course, here insert. By using this insert, you can insert. You can, of course, cancel if you want to cancel if a patient asks you to cancel their booking. You can do that here by accessing the booking, and then cancel or delete that from the system, and it will be deleted. But you need before you delete it, you need to know the appointment ID, and then you need to go to the appointment ID, and then you need to go to the appointments table, and then you need to change the taken to 0 so that somebody else can book that for themselves.